out this heat.
Absolutely, absolutely. Robert Littall is the founder and editor-in-chief of BSO Black Sports Online. It's honestly, it's one of my favorite websites to go to. I get all the latest, what's happening in the sports world, the entertainment world, and everything in between from BSO. So, Robert, BSO was started. You started the company back in 2005, I want to say. Just talk to me about like the company, how it came about, the name, all of it in between, and take me back to 2005 and your mindset and creating BSO.
I mean, totally different world, back
Yeah.
in 2005. We're talking, 16 years. You see a little of the gray hair, some of the hairline is hanging on by a thread. It was a lot different, back then, a few less pounds as well. But from a media standpoint, definitely different landscape back in 2005. We think now we can't live without our cell phones, our laptops, our iMacs, all of this technology, the streaming sites, all of the websites that are available to us now. None of that really was available back in 2005. And what I was thinking, my headspace at that time was coming fresh out of college at Ohio State, the Ohio State University, and kind of, a couple of years just doing odd jobs and everything, trying to find my place in the world of media, in the world of journalism, what to do with my degree. I saw that there was maybe an opportunity on this thing people call the internet, a way to be able to put your perspective on things. You could say maybe unintentionally, I kind of seen the future of social media and where we would be able to get our information more online and to be able to talk to each other and get our points across and things of that nature. So I can't say I'm some sort of genius or anything. It's just, I had some web experience as far as putting together websites and things like that. So I got motivated by the fact that at least, well, even now, but especially in the online space at that time, wasn't a lot of black, faces, wasn't a lot of black voices. Now, you may remember, or people that are old as me now may remember, is back then there were a ton of black entertainment websites, black gossip sites, black message boards and things of that nature. But that were very, black centric and owned by black people, but not in the sports realm. And what I wanted to do is I kind of wanted to bridge that gap. When I laid out my little business plan, it was like I wanted to be the BET of sports. That's where you get the BSO, from,
Okay.
Black Entertainment Television, Black Sports Online. That's where the acronym and all of that thought processes came. I was like, I'm going to be the BET of online sports. And I felt like at that time, websites didn't really have a face of the franchise, so to speak. You knew the website, but you didn't know the person who was behind the website. Well, I like to consider myself a bit of an innovator of that because I was one of the first that was a face of a brand that was online. Way before your TikToks and your Instagrams, and I'm a MySpace, baby, a Black Planet baby. So, so before that became like a thing where everybody wanted to have a brand and a podcast and a YouTube channel, I wanted to be the face of this website, and we kind of, took off. It was me. I started it on my own. I remember when I first started, I had one guy, another guy named Rob, that helped me out, and we just ran from there.
Wow. Hey, that's crazy. It's just innovation, entrepreneurship, just thinking forward, thinking, 5, 10, 15 now at this point, years down the line, has led to what BSO is today. And for those of you that don't know BSO, this is coming straight from Robert's website. It's the #1 minority-owned independent sports website in the United States. And some of these stats may be dated or
Love that. Yeah.
but 75 million page views, 25 million unique visitors, just crazy reach, over 60,000 on Instagram, 100,000 on Twitter. Just, I mean, you guys are killing it over there at BSO. Like I said, I see some of the great stuff that you're all doing. Once again, we're talking to Robert Littall of BSO. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. So, Robert, what was like that reaction, right? When you come, I know as a young entrepreneur and someone who's creating something in a space at the time, 2005, the internet was a thing, but it was still fairly new. Just what was it like when you're telling your friends, your family, your parents, or whoever that, hey, I'm gonna leave work and gonna actually create my own thing? How was that like?
Yeah, initially it was frowned upon. Let's be honest. Not so much the concept of having a website and a sports website, more the concept of being so pro-black about it, and how would it make money? Would advertisers want to be involved? Would leagues and organizations take it seriously? Because now I would say in 2021, they're all about diversity and they're all about inclusion and all of that. So that's an it thing to be as a company.
As
but
of now,
2005, 2010, it was still like, we're not gonna let this black guy in here, so it was a lot, of that. And I started to cite, and at first, I'll be honest with you, when like I started and like it was like Microsoft or anything. It just didn't blow up like immediately. It was kind of something I was doing on the side while still, trying to work and make sure I could eat and stuff like that. And then this is where the luck, comes into place, is that things change, technology changed. I don't think anybody realized from say 2005 to 2010 the type of jump people would make in regards to how they consumed their news. I just give you a quick percentage just so you just have an idea. Probably those first 5 years, 90% of our traffic was from desktops, the big old, desktops. You fast forward to now, about 85% are tablets, iPhones, Androids, handheld, devices. And only like, 10-15% is from desktops. Like it just, the technology switched in my favor. For some people, that's how technology is. It's very strange. Yeah. It can switch the other way, and then you had something before that's not hot anymore, and it puts you out of business. But for me, the way people consumed information and the way I delivered information went hand in hand and at the same time, and then it was just like.
Yeah, no, like you said, the technology switch is definitely something that's, I don't know if anyone could have predicted that we would be as, consumers the way we are on cell phones, on tablets, just on everything that's on the go, right? And so it worked a lot in your business favor. We had a question that came in the comment, and it said, how did you get those official reporter credentials when you go to NBA finals or things like what was it? Were you able to get those immediately when you started BSO, or was that something that actually came, throughout the time?
No, absolutely not. They did not want to do it. And I explained this to people, maybe a little easier now because they're a little more lax because so many people have online, ways of communicating, YouTube channels, other channels, things of that nature, podcasts. But when I started, they were steadfastly against independent, websites. Like they just didn't know what to do with it. They didn't realize, they were scared, I would say, in the sense that they were so used to dealing with people. Back then, you probably had ESPN, you had Yahoo Sports, you had maybe TNT. You had then you had all your big newspapers. You had your LA Times, your New York Times, your New York Post. They were just used to dealing with these people that had been at these positions for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Yeah. Whereas someone like me, they don't know who I am. I just came out of, nowhere, but what I always tell young people, and I still think it's a good thing to do today, is I just didn't ask. You know what I mean? I showed my work. That's the phrase that I use. I showed my work. If I was going to say, I want to go to the NBA finals, right? I would show them the NBA articles, but then I would also show them statistics. Like, look, my NBA articles are getting 50,000 views. That's independently, that's better than, some big newspapers and stuff. And I'm doing it consistently. I have this many social media followers. I have this. I interviewed this guy. And here's the thing that I really did, just for to answer his question, is once you get in one thing, you piggyback off of that thing to the next thing. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I started getting into was boxing, because they needed anybody to talk about boxing at that time to help build the sport. So what I would do is I would, let's say I would go to the NBA. I would say, well, I've been credentialed with Golden Boy Promotions and Fox Sports for Floyd Mayweather and Showtime Productions. So, in their mind, they're like, oh, well, Showtime thinks he's okay. Fox thinks he's okay. Maybe we should give him a shot. So it's a bit of a manipulation, but you piggyback off of that. Now, if you say, well, shoot, you want to do the NFL, you tell the NFL, hey, here's my video of me at the NBA Finals. The NBA says I'm good. Yeah. Why wouldn't you think I'm good? Oh, now you're at the NFL, you show that to the college football playoffs. Well, hell, I'm talking to Bill Belichick. Why wouldn't you let me in the college football playoffs? So you start small and then you build up. So like even with the entertainment stuff I did, I started off doing small movies, like independent movies, like red carpets, right? But then I would go to Disney and say, hey, I did this movie and this movie red carpet. Then I go to Sony and then I would go to Warner Brothers. Next thing you know, like, hey, here's your Suicide Squad interview. Here, you want to talk to John Cena? You want to go to the end game? Just you build it as like a portfolio, almost like a walking resume. Because when people see the more stuff you do, and here's the thing, here's the key, here's a really important. Doesn't matter how many people see it. All that matters, like general people, like the general population. Yeah. What matters is the decision makers, right? Yes. So if I want to do something now, and I can say, hey, decision maker, I just talked to Margot Robbie. That's one of the highest paid female actresses in the world. And she's, talking to me, and we laughing back and forth and stuff. Why wouldn't you want me to talk to your little bit lower level, actress? And it kind of goes from there.
Hey, that's awesome, man. That's great advice. That's great logic, right? Like it just only makes sense. If I can do this, why shouldn't I be able to do that?
Building block.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Especially being an independent, you don't have corporate backing by like some of these different people. Now, Robert, once again, we're talking to Robert Littal of Black Sports Online, BSO. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. You got some comments, throw them in the chat. We might be able to ask Rob. Now, Robert, with some of your content, how did you get more into some of the entertainment space, right? Like you said you started off being sports focused, but you have divulged off and like you said, you did an interview with Margaret Robbie, you do some of them entertainment stuff. Just kind of tell me at what point did you kind of gravitate towards and start grabbing some of that content?
Well, I used to be a rapper. Yeah. So,
man.
So the thing about it is, I always wanted to be in sports. I always wanted to do sports media, right? But like a lot of young, Black, males in their early teens, early 20s, I was into that. I was into Black culture, as well. So, and also I felt like I had a better understanding of young, especially back then, of young Black athletes, because I was a young Black man at that time as well. And as you saw these athletes, as once again, the technology changes, they became more entertainment stars. It just wasn't on the field. When my dad, would talk about an athlete like a Bill Russell or something like that, or Dr. J, it was just basketball court, basketball, and some social stuff, but they weren't like at the fashion weeks and, all of this stuff like this, they weren't like Odell Beckham, so being also in that world, that music industry world for a little bit, and then also seeing how, that was starting to blend in with the entertainment side. Ballers want to be rappers, rappers want to be ballers. To me, it was a perfect match because the guy that's been doing sports reporting, for 20 years, he can't tell you nothing about Dipset and the Locks. I live that. You know what I'm saying? So I know what I'm talking about when I'm saying that. Now, I will say, as I've gotten a little older, I kind of let some of my younger writers handle some of the new, because, the baby and little baby. I don't know about all the babies and stuff, but the culture in and of itself, I've always been a part of. And so that side to me, with Black people, I always say a lot of times they like to put Black people in a box. Yeah. Like you got to do one thing, and that's the only thing that you got to do. But thankfully, I never had people around me that said, stay in this box. So, I like sports, it's anything, but I like tennis, I like golf. When they're rowing at the Olympics, I'm all into it and stuff. But I'm also a big Marvel fan, if you can't tell. Big Marvel, big TV, got about 1,000 comic books that my wife is trying to get rid of. I'm into sneakers, I'm into music. So why wouldn't my own brand that I own, why would I limit my own brand? You know,
Yeah.
if this is what I wanted to, this is what interests me. Now, hopefully it interests, you as well, but I'm going to talk about the things that I like to talk about. And there's going to be an outlet, for people who want to hear about that. Maybe they don't want the gossip, stuff. Maybe they want to hear when I talk about LeBron and super teams, or maybe they want to find out when the new Spider-Man trailer is coming out. That's how you grow a diverse audience, and it allows you to stay in business for a longer period of time because there may be a couple of days where nothing crazy is happening, but you can still talk about sports or the Olympics or whatever. Or, maybe the sports stuff's not hidden and we can talk about movies and things like that. The more that you can do, the more things, it makes you more of an attractive brand, not to just get money, but just to your audience in general.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like you said, I mean, like I said, I've watched your interviews with entertainers, like that non-sport athletes, or some of your things that doesn't have to do with sports. It's like, man, they really are diverse over there at BSO. But one of the things that your company, I would say more so than anybody, is known for, and I know you're going to know this, are the captions.
Yeah.
I'm going to show a few of your Twitter captions, some of my favorites that I like over this is just over the last few days. It says, like, this one comes from you. It says, Brittany Renner replies to meme and critic that said she's trapped the Hornets simp, PJ Tucker, 18 years, $200,000 contract a month. Some more Brittany Renner stuff. It says, watch Ben Simmons call a man a nutty Professor Lips ass for clowning him about his lack of shooting. P. Diddy explains why he's starting an R&B group, but won't rob his artist this time around. Like, these are just some of the funny ones that I thought were hilarious. Where did you get this skill, or your staff get this skill of creating these like attention-grabbing captions to get people to come to your site?
Basically, it goes back to the rapping part of it all, and being creative in what you do, and the way we creative with your words and things of that nature. That was really one of the things that I learned at a long time ago, that if you're creative with your words, you're going to attract an audience. Now, the reason that the captions are important, this is very, very important for anybody that's listening, is we're all talking about the same stuff, right? We're all talking about the same things. We're all talking about the same stories. Now, difference between 2005, like you talked about, and 2021 is in 2005, there was a limited amount of people talking about certain things, right? Online. In 22, everybody's talking about it. As soon as stuff trending, somebody's talking about it. So the goal is, how do I get someone that has probably seen this story on multiple social media platforms, websites, or whatever? What is going to make them decide I'm also going to read it on BSO? So you have to be creative in the way that you present the thing. And then the most important thing is, like, this is the good part about being independent. You have freedom, right? You can't, if you work for a corporation or a conglomerate, right? There's a lot of checks and balances that go on. And, you've seen these guys get in trouble for their headlines because they either go too far, they say something offensive, and I sometimes maybe went a little too far. But in the end, I can't fire myself. So what can you do? So to me, it's all about taking the information. People say, how do you come up with the headline? It's taking the information that's available to you and just putting it in a way like if you and me are talking on, like we're just talking. Like if we're talking about Diddy and Bad Boy, we're going to talk about how he was stealing the money, right? How he was getting over on the artist, right?
All of them say it. So, yeah, like
all of them say it. If we just having a conversation, that's what you're thinking, right? I try to make the title what you're thinking, right? Okay. If you see a regular headline that says Diddy is starting a music company, your first thought is going to be, is he going to steal the money again? I just put out, when you see something like, Evander Kane, you think to yourself, is she mad because he took the G-Wagon? Because I'd be mad if somebody took my G-Wagon. I mean, if I was a girl and somebody was in Europe taking pictures of the mistress and sent me a letter saying I'm taking the G-Wagon and get the hell out of my house, That would piss me off. So I try to put in those titles what people are already thinking. And then another thing that I try to do is I try to give it a little room so other people can communicate about themselves. The quote tweets and giving their own thoughts on it and giving them an outlet like, hey, this is just not my title. Put your thoughts in there and I'll put it out there as well. When people feel like they're involved within the story, they're more likely to click it. They're more likely to share it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Once again, we're talking to Robert Littal, the founder and editor-in-chief over at Black Sports Online. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Now, Robert, just from the time that you started BSO as an entrepreneur, let's talk a little bit about business until now. Obviously, every company has had its, bumps in the road or whatever. Just what are some of the things that either you said to yourself, some of the models that you went to kind of get over some of the, whether it's, financial issues or controversy or whatever to get to the other side?
It's tough because our business is predicated on the story, and what stories are out there and then people reading. I say the reason that I would say there was a renaissance of independent websites probably from 2009 to maybe 2012, 2013. Around that time, what happened was mainstream media realized that these creative headlines, these off-the-wall stories, social media was a way that they were behind like usual. And they started to pick it up. And that's why you see ESPN doing, Jadakiss memes doing the verses. Like, why is Sports Center doing that? Because they realized
hired a whole guy for that.
Like, it's a whole guy. Yeah, they hired a guy for that.
The Omar guy.
Yeah, all of the hot takes and the moving away from the X's and the O's and more of the let's go viral type of thing. So the way a lot of those companies couldn't stay in business because the mainstream media ate up the market share. They ate up the advertising. They ate up the advertising networks. So if you were lucky, maybe you got bought out and then you became corporate, or if you're independent, it just was not enough money to stay, feasible. The difference between us and unbeknown to me, probably the thing that probably saved me was the fact that I went with basically a niche, and I didn't really look at it as a niche back then, but putting myself in this niche as, the black sports guy, basically, in this thing, it separated me from all of these other, type of sites. So even today, while, I would say there's, like you said, there's peaks and valleys. Like, there was a time, in this thing, we can still, there's certain months we hit that just the traffic is out of control, but it's stable. At least it can handle a pandemic. It can handle ups and downs because we didn't just stay put. We expanded. We talk about everything. So yeah, there wasn't no sports for like 6, 7, 8 months, but we still had all the other stuff that we could talk about. So it's very important that you pay attention to your audience, but you always are looking for new ways. Sometimes you got to pull back. Like I can't, there was a time where I could do a lot of the quote unquote for the bros stories. It doesn't fly as well in 2021 as it did in 2017. In 2017, we may have had 5 to 10 stories that literally were just, scantily clad, pictures. And those were great traffic drivers. And even today, they're still traffic drivers, but it doesn't fit well in what's going on, now. There are certain stories that I probably wouldn't have had a problem running in 2018 or 2016 that I had to take a step back and say, this is probably not a good look. I have, the advertisers that I do have probably, don't want to touch this. So even though we still, we're still out there with some of the things that we do, there's a lot of stuff now that we've pulled back on, but it's allowed us to have a better premium attraction to people that are basically keeping us in business.
Yeah, absolutely. And because like you said, the landscape has changed just across America in all facets, right? Especially when it comes to, journalism and what you report on and how you word things and certain things that you say. We know that they can get, different people in trouble, canceled, whatever, you know what I mean? Like those things tend to happen. For you, Robert, I want to say, like, when has there ever been a time, being independently owned, being black owned, that like may have cost you some money somewhere, or somebody maybe turned you down because they didn't like, some of the content, or hey, maybe an advertiser came to you and was like, hey, what you're doing, this was a little over the top. Have you ever come across that?
Yeah, it's possible. It's hard to tell. Nobody's
Okay.
gonna come out and say it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Nobody's gonna come out and be like, we didn't give him the money because he's, black. I'm sure there were situations where that happened, but I have to be honest. I try to be honest with people. I don't try to sugarcoat and things like that. I am 100% sure there's opportunities where a check came just because I was black and I had a big audience. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I can't, I can't say that, it doesn't go both ways. I'm sure there were times where they're like, this black guy, I've heard his site's a little too controversial for us, but, they give Barstool the money or give these busted coverage the money, but, I'm too out there. Right. But then I know there's also been times where, I don't want to mess up any connects, but I can tell that the reason I got the call, the reason I got the email was because they needed, me. They either needed me personally or needed my audience, and they couldn't get it from nowhere else. So it's a kind of a balance, and that's why I try not to be, I'm very pro-black and very about all black people, right? But you have to understand that you can't just burn. You can't get mad every time you don't get something. I think that's also why I've been, able to do a lot of things. Is like when stuff doesn't happen, like if I get turned down for something, I don't cause a fit. I don't go screaming on Twitter and stuff because people watch that and you never know when the next opportunity come back. Like I just give you an example because he's black and he's rich, so it doesn't matter. Like, Kevin Hart had a show. I think he has a muscle car show. And they wanted me to help with the muscle car show and do the previews and do all of this stuff to help this, obscure muscle car show. But when it came time to interview, all of a sudden it didn't have no time to do it. You know what I mean? And the way they approached me with it was like, Dad, it kind of sucks. We had you doing all of this stuff, promised you this interview, and then, it didn't happen. Hey, no problem, because something else is going to come up eventually. Yeah. And you're going to remember the fact that I didn't freak out or anything. And I kept promoting it because I think the people that came to me, I think you're good people. You're going to get me in something else. Because you're going to remember that. You're going to remember I acted professional like that. And you have to think about that from a business perspective to not burn bridges, because as black people, we don't have a lot of bridges to burn. White people can like burn up whole hospitals and stuff. Don't matter. Right. We very, very fine line of us making mistakes and being able to come back from those, as opposed to people that don't look like us.
Yeah, you said something really important in there, and what that told me, that story, some of those stories that you laid out there, was networking. It sounds like, obviously in our profession, it's networking is a big deal. Just what are some of the other ways that your networking, your professionalism has led you and got you in the door and some opportunities maybe you didn't think you'd be able to have?
See, I like to tell people is that people think what you see on social media or what you see on YouTube or what you see on Instagram, they think that's the reality, right? Like that's what the person is, right? That's not really true in the sense that the deals are made with nobody around, So how you handle yourself through adversity, how you handle yourself through disappointment, how you handle yourself when you do get inside, these doors that are open for you, really says a lot about your long-term viability in whatever business, you're in. You see people that are often complaining and burning bridges and talking crazy and acting crazy when they get places. And then if something does happen, they don't have a foundation of people that are willing to, give them another, shot. So to me, it's always been about the people that have the power. A lot of times, like 90% of the times, a general person in the street would not know that person, right?
Yeah.
Like right now, if I ran off the people that you may know, Kevin Feige, right, at Marvel, right?
Yeah.
And he's the big man, right? He's the big man, right?
Yeah.
But the person that is like, you want to go do some of this Shang-Chi stuff, that's not Kevin Feige that's doing that. That's somebody really, really important, right? but it's not Kevin Feige. But if you mess up right here, you may never ever get to meet Kevin Feige. You may never even get to do anything else if you mess up their relationship. So you got to really pay attention. And when people offer you stuff, and like, I did a lot of stuff that I really had no interest in because I knew the payoff was bigger down the road. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really want to watch this movie, or I don't really want to interview this C-list actor that nobody really knows. I don't want to promote this show that looks particularly stupid to me. I don't want to do this advertising. But you do all of that because at some point, the big opportunity is going to come, and they're going to remember all the little stuff that you did that they know you didn't. Like when I was getting into boxing, they would have me interviewing boxers that wasn't even on the TV card. But I would do it. I'd do a whole story on it. 7 people would read it. That's it. But eventually, that's how I got into the Mayweather gym. That's how I got into the Robert Garcia gym. That's how I talked to Pacquiao. That's why I did an interview with Freddie Roach, is because they remember 7 years ago when they had a boxer that wasn't doing nothing, and I interviewed him. Now this guy that was low on the totem pole is high on the totem pole, and I'm his boy.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Like you said, that stuff matters, and people remember what you did to them. People remember how you make them feel and things like that. I wanna ask you as well. As far as now, we're seeing in sports a push in these things for like the vaccine, right? The shot, and you see certain guys coming out saying they're not going to take it or whatever. What are your thoughts on like some of the punishments from like the NFL and the NBA or whoever if you don't get the vaccine versus getting the vaccine, and how do you think that's going to translate, especially throughout the NFL season, which ironically starts tonight?
Well, I don't know if this is still true, but I remember when I was younger, all of my friends and stuff, you get your summer job at Target, right? You Target or Walmart or in the mall or something like that.
Yeah.
First thing they have you do, because they hire everybody, right? What was the first thing that they had you do? You got to go to Quest Diagnostics, and you got to pee in your cup because they want to see if you had been smoking weed, right?
Yeah.
Now, weed is not I don't think weed's a big deal. Hopefully it becomes legalized, right? But if you want to work at Target and get your summer money, you had to do it. Right, or you had to stop smoking weed for that week. You know what I mean? You had
detox or whatever. Yeah, whatever
right,
to get it out.
Right. Now, when I say that, when I'm meaning that, if you want to work, there are going to be stipulations. If the job say you got to wear a suit and tie, you got to wear a suit and tie. You can't walk in there with jeans, right? Some jobs say that, right? Jobs give rules, right? Now, if you're like me and you work from home, it's easy to say, I'm not getting no vaccine. Why would I just want to get possibly sick at my own house, right? Yeah. It's easier for me because I don't. But if I worked for the NFL Network, and the NFL Network said, well, Rob, if you want to be on TV, if you want to come in the building, if you want to keep your spot, you want your 6-figure salary, you got to get the vaccine. You see what I'm saying? So if you're an NFL player, they're saying you don't have to get it. They're not, because they can, you don't have to get it, but you have to understand that them asking or putting pressure on you, that's just part of the job. And I don't get really NFL players, because I've seen NFL players take stuff that like has come from countries I can't even pronounce. They do anything they have to do to stay on the field. But here's the difference. The difference is the vaccine in and of itself has become political. And a lot of those NFL players are MAGA. So MAGA told them not to do this, even though I always say, just ask the people that are telling you not to take the vaccine, have they taken the vaccine? Because you can't get into Fox News without the vaccine. Trump got the vaccine. Trump got all type of experimental stuff going through his body. All of those senators and stuff, when they get sick, they get the good stuff. They get stuff that's not even available to you and me.
Yeah.
So when I see someone like Kirk Cousins, right?
Yeah.
Says, I'm not going to get it. I'm going to put plexiglass up. Like, that's fine. That's your choice. But I prefer someone like Kirk Cousins just be upfront and honest, right? I'm not going to get it, but I'm going to follow the rules of the people that don't get it. I'm cool with that, because that's telling me like, that's your choice, but you're going to follow the rules. The people that I don't like are the people like Beasley, that says, I'm not going to get it, but I don't want to follow the rules of the people that don't get it. Like in any other job, if they gave you an option, and option A was you do this and you can do that, or option B, you can do it your way, but you got to do this. That's life. You make a choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When they say, hey, you either got to take your vacation time or lose it, you don't, if you lose it, you can't be like, man, that's messed up. They gave you the option.
Yeah, you definitely get the option. That is very true. Hey, that's very true. That's a great way to explain it, because like you said, when you take a job and you get the luxuries of said job,
yes,
and the job is the NFL, you can pay millions of dollars, man. So it's like, hey, you don't have to take it. But if you decide not to, you got to go through strenuous other, routes. You got to go a different route than everybody. And I can respect that. Robert, I just want to ask you a few more questions and I'll get you up out of here. But I do want to ask you about the site and how a BSO was expanding. I know that you have a podcast now, and for a lot of websites, and not just independently owned ones like yourself, but a lot of ones, like, they've changed their format. They don't even post articles anymore. I know Bleacher Report, I went on there. They don't really post many articles on Bleacher Report anymore. It's mainly all the social media and things like that. And your site is tapped in with that as well. But how is it that you've been able to withstand, everything that's come at you and still be able to continue to grow and expand and do things like your podcast now?
Well, it's tough, because, if your website is your moneymaker, you have to find a way to get, the traffic before you do anything, else. Now, I would say the good thing for someone like myself is that I've always felt like the website was a foundation to go do other things. I always tell people all the time, and this is true. If I just sat down and just did the website 24/7, I would make more money than if I didn't go out and cover the events, cover the movies, do the interviews, do the podcasts, do the live streams and all of that, because that's really the money maker. But to me, that is not really expanding your personal brand, expanding other writers' personal brand, other contributors' personal brand. Because to me, what's the point of just sitting there? It's like sitting there with a bunch of money, but you're not doing anything, that may be cool for some people. That's why people like to stay behind the curtain of their website. I've never been like that. To me, the website's just a foundation for me to go out and cover sports and interact with people. Like, social media has gotten a bit toxic. It's gotten a bit where you can't have nuanced conversations. But I used to love social media because I like to communicate, with people. I like to interact with my audience, even if they disagree with me. It's just gotten to the point now that it's difficult, because if you say literally anything against the majority, it's a problem and it's not worth your piece. I remember I had a whole podcast about sometimes you can have a different opinion, and it can just slightly different. Yeah. And you'll spend all day fighting everybody or people trying to cancel you and do all of this stuff like that. And you don't wasted 8 hours of your day fighting people that you're never going to meet. So I will say it's not as fun as it used to be. So, my job now really, since I've done it so long, is kind of identify the stories that I know that people are going to react to. Hopefully those stories do very well. And then me go off and go read a book outside of my backyard with my little baby and just, relax, because I've done so much in the industry. I don't feel like I need to prove myself anyone. If I say, hey, I want to cover this, there's enough stuff there in my resume that I don't really have to explain myself, why I want to do it. And because of that, but that's a lot of, that's 15, 16 years of hard work to be able to say, okay, I can pinpoint 10 stories that I know people are going to go crazy of. And then I'm going to lunch with my wife and my kid. I'm going to go walk the dog. I'm going to live actually life, because what's the point of building this and being in prison? I don't want it to be like that.
Absolutely. Once again, we're talking to Robert Littal, the creator and founder, editor-in-chief over at BSO. Robert, thank you so much for tapping in with me today. I know you got a busy million things you could have been doing, like you said, playing with your little baby, walking your dog, but you spent a few minutes with me today. Once again, this is Jeff Lighty Jr. with the Black Sports. I almost said Black Sports Online with the Victory Formation, the Black Boss channel. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Thank you guys for